Being a San Francisco 49er fan is not for the faint of heart. We have yet again another significant injury to a superstar player on the San Francisco 49ers offense. Deebo Samuel is going to miss multiple weeks due to a calf strain. So, what we're going to be talking about are the implications. What are the reactions to this? How did the San Francisco 49ers overcome an injury like this to a player who has been hugely impactful to the 49ers offense already through the first 2 weeks? And on top of that, it's not just the San Francisco 49ers who are going through a lot of injuries. It's also the Los Angeles Rams are also decimated with injuries as well. So we'll talk about those injuries that are coming through for them. But again, main focus of this is obviously Deebo Samuel dealing with a pretty big injury. Man, tough stuff. Let's get into it all right now. Smash that like button and we'll talk about it. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see it. All right, guys. Oh boy, where do we even begin? The San Francisco 49ers just got dealt some unfortunate news regarding Deebo Samuel. Again, if you're just joining, Deebo Samuel will miss a couple weeks, a few weeks, nothing super definitive. Essentially, he is going to miss multiple games dealing with a calf strain. And, you know, this is obviously a huge challenge for the San Francisco 49ers because you are now down two of your top players on the offense. We already know about Christian McCaffrey was placed on injured reserve this past week. We don't know if injured reserve is in the future for Deebo Samuel. Again, it's a possibility, especially if they do believe he's going to miss up to 4 weeks. I also think they have to kind of balance returns and like who can return from short-term IR. So that's another aspect to it. But as it stands right now, the 49ers will be out without Deebo Samuel for the coming days. So coming weeks, it appears. So huge blow. There's no other way to discuss it. Deebo Samuel was playing at a very high level for the San Francisco 49ers. He was one of the more reliable players so far on the team. Just early on, obviously, we've only been through 2 weeks. So it is, what it is, but Deebo had a huge role. And when you look even against with that loss against the Minnesota Vikings, Deebo was having a great game. He was all over the place. He was making plays. He was making really tough catches. He was doing things, and it was a continuation of the really strong camp that he was having. Again, when you think about it, Deebo didn't take any days off when it came to training camp, and I'm not at all trying to allude to the fact that had anything to do with this. I'm just saying this guy has been going super hard since training camp. This was a big year for him. I called it a contract year. And so there was a lot on the line for him. So this is an fortunate injury for multiple reasons. One, because obviously it impacts the San Francisco 49ers and their future. It impacts Deebo and his future as well. So I don't know anything about when this injury occurred because it did seem like he played a majority of the game. Uh, yeah. Oh gosh. It stinks, man. It really, really does. Injuries across the league are starting to stack up. We'll get into the Rams. We'll get into the Rams injuries here in a second. I want to focus right now on this situation that is kind of transpiring with the San Francisco 49ers. Um, just a tough scenario. Man, Christian McCaffrey goes down last week. Now it's Deebo Samuel. But again, the question that we keep asking ourselves is who's going to step up? It's a next man up league, and there isn't time to, you know, pout in the corner and cry and be like, oh no, Deebo Samuel, he's not playing. What are we gonna do? Like the world hates us, the football gods hate us, blah, like there's no time for that. So what are the 49ers gonna do? What are the solutions? How do they overcome this injury? Well, obviously, Brandon Ayuk is going to have to take on a much larger role. Jawan Jennings is going to have to take on a much larger role. And then we're going to have to look at guys like Ronnie Bell, Jacob Cowing, Chris Conley. These guys are going to have to step into much larger roles than they have played in the past. And obviously, we can't say, oh, it's good. We got Ricky Pearsall coming in, first round draft pick. We know he can't play until week 5. So maybe by week 5, Deebo Samuel's back in the mix. But until then, there's 2 weeks minimum. Rams, Patriots, where I do think the 49ers are going to have to figure out how to overcome this injury. So I do imagine we'll see, obviously, Jawan is going to be integrated. Obviously, Ayuk's going to be integrated. It's the other guys. It's who's next? Conley. Is it going to be a combination of guys? Are the San Francisco 49ers going to try to add someone via practice squad, signing some from some other team's practice squad, adding from free agency? The 49ers do have an open roster spot as it currently stands, based on placing Christian McCaffrey on injured reserve. So there is room. They have an opportunity to add someone. So will they? Will they find a veteran available potentially? Oh, that's a good call. I forgot about I forgot Terrace Marshall is on the San Francisco 49ers. Has he been with the team enough to acclimate, understand the playbook, and do the 49ers feel comfortable with, using Terrace Marshall? Obviously, completely different players from what Deebo Samuel provides. Deebo Samuel obviously can do a bunch of different things. I think one of the larger aspects to this is Deebo was kind of operating like your running back 2. So now you don't have Deebo as your in case of emergency break glass running back. Now your emergency running back is out. Now what do the 49ers do? Because I've already looked at, I saw one rep from Isaac Guerendo that he played against Minnesota. I haven't watched all. I'm still working through the tape. I'm about halfway through. There's one rep where he could have kept pushing to the left. He cut it back a little bit too quickly to the right. He's still getting his footing. He just hasn't had enough reps yet to feel comfortable to rely on him. Just yet. Doesn't mean they can't. But it just doesn't feel like he's quite ready, which is perfectly understandable. So where do the 49ers go? Is Patrick Taylor enough for them? Do they bring in Matt Breida? Do they go out and sign A guy like Michael Carter from the Arizona practice squad that I really like, that fits kind of almost a wide back role. He could be like a slot wide receiver if you needed him. Obviously can play running back. So I think the questions now become, is the 49ers have to add someone. They have to add a weapon. They have to add someone who can bring some a jolt of energy to this offense. So, and again, your options are extremely limited. You're pulling off other teams' practice squads. You're pulling off guys who aren't on teams right now, um, and all of those things. Um, so we shall see. We shall see what the San Francisco 49ers do in regards to filling that hole left on the roster by Christian McCaffrey. But you also have guys like Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport projecting that Christian McCaffrey's injury is going to be beyond the 4 weeks that he can return from short-term IR. They're thinking it's going to be like a 6-week, 7-week injury. Man, it just doesn't. It's a tough spot because when we talk about the San Francisco 49ers and their success, a huge part of their success is predicated on staying healthy, because we know that they're a well-constructed team. We know they're a good team. We know that when they're executing and they're rolling and they're in rhythm, they're a very difficult team to stop. So one of the main things that typically gets in the way of the 49ers success is injuries, is health, is availability. It's been like that since 2019, since 2020. um, they have all the makings of being a good team and all of those things. It's like these key injuries and key moments that tend to pop up in the biggest moments, that are just really, really unfortunate. But hey, it's a next man up league. Someone's got to step up. Someone's got to ball. Someone's got to take advantage of these opportunities. And who is it going to be? Throwback says Brock Purdy didn't have his best game, but guys weren't getting open. This might be Trent Williams, I'm assuming, worst game Trent Williams has ever had as a 49ers. What else could have gone wrong? Um, so far, uh, again, like I said, I'm halfway through the tape. In regards to my read on Trent Williams, I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that this was the worst game of his career. It definitely wasn't his best game, but um, he's still doing good things out there. He's still doing Trent Williams things. Um, in regards to players getting open, I think it's hard because when the defense is taking away reads, like for example, on a play that was a dummy screen to the right, and it looked like it was designed to be a backside slant to George Kittle, and you have a safety squatting on both the interior breaking routes that takes that away. Um, to me, that's more scheme related. So far, I've just been seeing more scheme related issues uh, on tape. I like I just one of the last posts that I made on Twitter was uh, Brock Purdy throwing a pass to Brandon Ayuk that just was a little too far out of bounds, but Brandon Ayuk had 4 or 5 steps on the next nearest defender, so he was wide open. So um, again, I think it's a combination of a lot of things. Like I said, I'm still breaking down the tape. I'm about halfway through. There's instances of all things on tape. That's why it's really hard to make grand sweeping assumptions from film sometimes, is because there's a lot of different things that play into why guys aren't open, why things are happening the way they are, why a pass pulled Brandon Ayuk out of bounds was because you had an underneath defender squatting on it, and Brock couldn't drive it. He had to put air under it, and the air, as a result of that, took a would-be Brandon Ayuk touchdown, which changes the narrative on Brandon Ayuk and his lack of production. And it was, again, there's a lot of reasoning and minute details that go into the hows and whys of the how everything was executed, um, with that game against the 49ers. It wasn't great. It wasn't ideal. There's a lot of missed opportunities. I would say that's probably one of the more defining things of that game was missed opportunities so far from what I'm watching. But again, I still have halfway to go to get through all of it. Um, but it wasn't clean. It wasn't great. It wasn't ideal. Um, but I do like what Charlene's saying. Is proud of the fight, especially since they should have had at least three roughing the passers that would have changed the game. Also, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of woulda, coulda, shouldas, and all that stuff, but it just comes down to execution. Comes down to playing your game and doing those types of things. And we know I talk about it all the time on this channel. The first 4 weeks of the season are a glorified preseason for the starters. So right now, all the starters are just trying to get into rhythm, get into a groove, and figure out what works, figure out what doesn't work. Um, a lot of different things going on. And right now, they're not all going great. They're not all perfect. They're not all ideal. Um, you know, it is what it is. So, but it's also not the end of the world. Two things can be true at once, right? Things could not be going their way. Things could be better. Things could be executed better. Scheme could be better, but it's also not the end of the world. They can improve. I'm seeing a ton of instances on tape that it looked way worse in real time. And then you get into the tape and you're like, all right, well, it's not that bad. It was kind of like what Brandon Ayuk said the other day. He was like, I was really scared to get into the tape, and then I got into it, and it wasn't that bad. I really feel like that's how it always is. It looks worse in real time. It looks worse when you're watching and your emotions are invested into it and you're living and dying with every single play. But when you go back and you have the time and you just watching it back and forth and you're watching each position and you're watching who's where and who's at fault or who's maybe not doing what they're supposed to, you can contextualize a little bit better about what's going on. And so, what's going on is it wasn't clean. What's going on is the Minnesota Vikings had a really good game plan, at least defensively, against the San Francisco 49ers, and the 49ers weren't helping themselves. They they hurt themselves probably more than anything. So, um, there's a lot to take away from that one. But the thing is, with Deebo being out, that significantly changes the complexion of the offense. Um, it really does. I think that's the biggest concern that you have right now is that Debo what is a difference maker in regards to how opposing defenses key on the 49ers offense. What he does behind the line of scrimmage, the motions. There's so many instances on tape just from this game where you can see the way the defense is reacting to Debo Samuel in motion and all the different things that Debo's trying to do and what they're keying on. For example, they tried to run a fake screen to Debo Samuel and it bit up the entire defense and you had an open wide receiver as a result of it, but unfortunately just weren't able to hit on a guy who broke free. But again, teams are keying on Debo. They're keying on where he is pre-snap, what he's doing post-snap, and really trying to figure out um, how to neutralize him if they can. So it is what it is. It's going to be a tough one. Uh, it's it definitely doesn't help the San Francisco 49ers in any way. So, yeah, man, a tough situation with how it all is playing down and with the injuries continuing to stack up. But I would say this is that I do think the 49ers are a team that has been in this spot before. They've been here with injuries. They've been here with guys like Deebo being out. They know what's to come. So it's up to them and how they respond to this. It's up to them and how they attack and continue to develop a game plan that works for them and the guys that they have. And hey, listen, it puts more on Brock Purdy's shoulders. It puts more on Kyle Shanahan's shoulders to carry the load, at least offensively, right? So those guys are going to have to pull a little bit more weight. That's what happens when you lose superstars is it transfers a lot of responsibility to your players like your quarterback. Transfers responsibility to your offensive coordinator to scheme up a good game plan. So those are the guys who are going to be impacted the most by this. It's going to be Brock and it's going to be Kyle. How do they respond to this? What do they dial up as a result? Who do they get involved and how do they continue to generate mismatches and attack them? So that's what we're going to be looking for with this unfortunate news to Deebo Samuel being out. Hopefully, it doesn't derail the 49ers early on. I don't think it will. I know with the 49ers loss to the Vikings, there's not a lot of confidence out there right now. I could see it in the chat. I could see it online. Everyone is, skeptical of where the 49ers are currently at and, you know, what is going on with the team. And I understand. So, but it's early on, and this is why they get paid the big bucks is they got to take these injuries in stride and they have to be resilient and they have to keep fighting. And if there's any team who would do that, it's the 49ers. So they're not dead until they're dead, people. Let's get a grip on reality. Let's stop having so much recency bias and having such adverse reactions to the last thing that we saw. Let's have a little bit of a long game in mind. It's a marathon, it's not a sprint. Be patient. Let's let the first 4 weeks of this season play out before we come to any definitive anything regarding this team. There are so many instances with this team. You go back to 2021. We thought this team was dead in the water by week 6? Week 6. We thought the 49ers were absolutely cooked. No chance at the playoffs, no chance at anything. I get it. The season didn't end how we ultimately wanted, but they got into the playoffs. They got all the way to, basically a play away from the Super Bowl. So you can't count out this team. Like, you can be upset with what you're seeing. You can be frustrated with the output. But if we're going to be rational thinking people, we have to understand that it's too soon to really give a definitive output on anything, even good or bad. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into this. There's a lot of reasoning of why this team still has an opportunity to do some things regardless of the injuries. And think about it. If they can sustain, if they can win, and they could get through to the bye, when you look at their schedule, they got Rams next week. The Rams are going to be without Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, and like 5 other starters. So that they go to the Rams, get a W there. Then they're back home against the Patriots, home against the Cardinals, in that game against the Cardinals could be the first game we see with Ricky Pearsall. And then it's week 6 versus Seahawks, Kansas City Chiefs week 7, Cowboys week 8. If the 49ers can win, 3/4 of their games heading into the bye, they're still in really good shape. And let's just say, okay, you're not getting Christian McCaffrey until after the bye. They've got multiple games ahead of them that they can win. They have multiple games on this schedule that won't be easy for all of them for sure, but there's also a lot of winnable games on that schedule as well. So just keep in mind, 49ers got to win division. And then it comes to making sure that they're winning in conference to be able to get the best seeding possible. And that remains to be the goal. So, yes, unfortunate performance yesterday, not to what we would anticipate with their performance against the Vikings. Now we got some injuries, more adversity early on. I've seen it more often than I haven't with the San Francisco 49ers is early adversity. So because I have been able to cover this team since Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have taken over, I have also seen a lot of adversity. I've seen a lot of slow starts. Do you guys remember that there was a time when we would consistently talk about slow starts with the 49ers, right? Oh, they're starting slow. They're starting slow. They're starting slow. Fast starts like last year were actually was actually going against the trend of what the 49ers were. So when the 49ers went 5-0, that was actually against the grain of the trend of the 49ers. So just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind when you feel like the sky is falling and you feel like, oh, the season's over. It's week 2, guys. Let's pull it together. let's next man up mentality. We got a beatable Rams game coming up. 49ers could be 2-1 in a hurry. And if they take it to the Patriots week 4, they're 3-1. So just be easy. Be easy. Yeah, we're not like Baltimore's a little scary right now. I think we'd have a little bit different tone if we were looking like Baltimore, but right now we're not. So let's be patient. Patience is a virtue, as they say, right? So hopefully we'll be getting some players back next week. Really hoping we get Talanoa Hufanga back into the mix. Some adjustments, things like that. We'll figure it out. Lisa's 49er says, are we dead yet? I offered Deebo both of my calves. Honestly, one thing about this fan base is if they could offer up body parts to swap out with players, I guarantee you Christian McCaffrey would have been back on the field already. Deebo Samuel would be back on the field. Ricky Pearsall would be back on the field. 49er fans would donate whatever extremity they needed to a player to ensure they could go out and ball. So I do appreciate the sentiment. Depressed people. We're gonna be all right. Chill. What did Aaron Rodgers say? Relax. Just relax. We're not in panic mode yet. Trust me. You guys have seen me go into panic mode. I've been there. It takes a lot for me to get there. But I have gotten to panic mode. And even when I have finally reached that point of like, all right, it's time to panic, the 49ers are like, chill, Brad, relax. I'm like, okay. You're right. See, even when I finally succumbed to the panic, even when I finally succumbed, they're like, no, we're good. I'm like, oh, you're right. You're right. let's settle down. We'll do the film breakdowns. We'll talk about what worked, what didn't work, and we'll get into it all after that. I'm hopefully going to have a film breakdown here pretty soon that we could just run through a couple of the plays. Again, identifying what worked, what didn't work. The tape so far didn't feel as bad as the broadcast. So we'll get into all that stuff. But again, stay calm, deep breaths. We're not dead yet. We are not dead yet. Listen, guys, we've been through debilitating Super Bowl losses, terrible season-ending injuries, ridiculous things as a fan base. Ridiculous things. There's no one sugarcoating that. But regardless of that, we're still here. We're still standing. And let's go. We're good. We're not dead yet. Appreciate all you guys. I'm out of here for now. Peace. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see it.